Hey everybody, Kyle Sasser here, Ashlar Home Team, and found something today in the MLS that you might find interesting. So I know everyone has been talking about all of these large-scale home investment buyers. That it's definitely not anything new. Large-scale hedge funds and private equity have been buying and owning homes for a very long period of time. It's certainly not something that has developed in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, although that is when all of the news stories have been happening about it. And, the reason why is understandable. News story creates a little crunch about housing prices. Oh, there's large numbers of people. There's large companies that own homes. Maybe we should write a story about that. One of my theories has been that, as these large scale homeowners, and for example, like Invitation Homes is one, they own tens of thousands of homes, and they had been on a bit of a buying spree from 2018 and 2020. The interesting thing though is, and everyone was, sky is falling about it, but the interesting thing is how large corporations interact with real estate and how trends tend to swing. You also will find this with like when Zillow was buying homes. So before Invitation Homes and the large scale rental companies were the doom and gloom of the industry, it was iBuyers are the doom and gloom of the industry, and Zillow is going to own every house in the country before 5 years is up because they have so much information and data and blah 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 blah. They ended up losing billions of dollars on that program, and personally I interacted with that program a lot, and I love dealing with them because you have to understand large scale corporate interests, which is it's pretty much all about the bottom line, and no one really has a lot of personal investment in the actual nuts and bolts. And unless the incentives are lined up perfectly to incentivize the right behaviors, things are going to get out of whack quickly. So, but enough beating around the bush here. Let's get into the actual what I discovered here. So this house is currently for sale in Land O'Lakes, Florida. But honestly, the large-scale home buyers have been buying around, many parts of the country. But this one in particular was originally a Lennar home built 2005, which we can see here. The purchase price is $344,900. And so anyway, they asked me for some additional information on this. This is generally my process of when someone's like, hey, there's a house I'm interested in, can you give me some more information? So obviously I come here, I look at the listing. I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. I check the attachments, which are here, and then I usually check public record because it does tell us, a few interesting things if permits were pulled and all that other stuff. I try to check permits. I try to see, basically what the status of the house is. And this one was a little peculiar just because it had, seller paid promotion of 2%. Like that's unusual. So anyway, so I go to check public record. So we go through Realist here. And I don't usually look at this. I'm usually looking for the actual tax ID, which takes me to Pasco County Property Appraiser's website, which looks like this. And again, all of the stuff is pretty similar no matter where you're at in the country. So we come in here and I'm like, okay, so this was sold in 2019. That's cool. House was originally built in 2005. So there was, and usually I'm looking for like ownership. Like, has this house changed hands like 10 times or has it been owned by the same person for 20 years? So in this case, somebody owned it from 2005 to 2019. The previous ones are development deeds where Lennar was building this house. And then somebody bought it in 2019. So that tells me that, someone has owned this house for a few years. So this isn't like a flipper. And the other reason why I checked this is because, we had these photos here. And then it's like, okay, so there has been some updates here. Usually you see fresh floors, fresh paint with a flip. And again, that's when obviously these appliances are newer, they still got stickers on them. So, I'm gathering all this information. So I send this information over to the buyer, so they can kind of make their decision. And I scroll back up here and I'm like, huh. So this is the public mailing address for the owner. And I was like, huh, AHR4 Properties 2 LLC. So most people, as soon as they see LLC, they're like, investor and all that. I don't have anything wrong with investors. What stands out to me is this 2 here. So whenever, this is pretty common whenever you have like large scale home ownership. They will break things up into different huge blocks. With individual investors, it's not uncommon to have each house in its own LLC. Like that's a very popular way to do it. Obviously, whenever you own, thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of houses, that becomes a lot more problematic to manage. And so they will usually group a lot of those together. And smaller scale investors will also, can also group things together. It's not like this is a major home investment requirement. But the two there stood out to me. So I was like, okay, well, let's see who this is. Because I didn't recognize this AH4R. I do recognize, so invitations literally says like invitation. And, some of the other companies, they're pretty easy to spot, like Zillow's Trust and Open Doors, like they're pretty easy to spot. But I didn't recognize this one. So I was like, all right, well, that's interesting. Let's see who this is. So I took this, copied that, go to old Google, and throw that in there. And we're like, okay, oh, interesting, AMH Homes. So basically, and then I usually take off this 2LLC thing. And then here we can see American Homes for Rent. Well, that's definitely them. So we come in here and we can see that, yes, this is a large-scale ownership company. If we do American Homes for Rent, we can find a Wikipedia page even. And lots of feedback. I'm sure the reviews are, actually the reviews aren't that bad. 4.3 stars. I'm assuming they probably incentivize those reviews. So let's do Wikipedia. So basically, the interesting thing about American Homes for Rent is based in Las Vegas. They own, as of 2019, they owned around 52,000 homes. They were in 22 states. Pretty big, large-scale investment company. Currently own $9.1 billion of assets. And they were one of the first to really start doing this on a large scale, which I thought was interesting. But here's the interesting part to me. So far as impact and decision making, there was a point in time where I was talking to some people that were working for hedge funds and kind of these larger scale real estate investment trusts and stuff like that. This would have been around like 2020, 2021. And what they literally told me was, we are going to buy until the end of time because we will never see a home price decrease. And we're not worried about any sort of downturn in the market. It's not going to happen. And basically this is printing money. And whenever somebody, especially somebody who controls a large amount of money, whenever they start saying that sort of stuff, alarm bells should be going off. Not that there is an immediate housing crash, but anybody who knows anything about real estate knows that real estate moves. It goes up, it goes down. Now, these companies are based in rentals. So what the rental market does has a lot of impact on that. There was a period of time, early to mid-COVID, where rentals were skyrocketing. So rental prices tend to move a little bit faster than home prices because they get turned over every year or two. So they naturally move quicker. And the thing is, a lot of people that were trying to buy houses, when they couldn't buy a house, they were like, well, let's rent. So the rental market was absolutely saturated. And here's the thing, I had to rent a house during that time as well because our house got flooded. It was torn down to the studs. So I remember when there was literally just a handful of homes to choose from for rent in the greater Tampa Bay area for months. And I had to pull the trigger on that because we needed a place to stay. But the thing is that changed significantly after July 2022. And honestly, even like early 2022. So the number of rentals ballooned. Basically like the supply of rentals ballooned, became a lot more than there was previously. Whenever you have a ballooning inventory supply, prices are naturally going to level off and then potentially decline. And that's what we have been seeing for the last couple of years. We have been seeing a decline in rental prices. Now, the one eternal truth is a ramp up always takes a lot longer than a decline. And the reason why is because people are very reluctant to rent a house for less than they were able to rent it for 2 years ago. So it takes time for them to realize that the market has changed and for those prices to come down. Looking at this from the investor side of things, if you are going gold rush purchasing, and remember the market then on the purchase side was also crazy limited on inventory. That's why home prices were skyrocketing so quickly at that point. So many of these investment firms were paying top dollar on rental homes, fully expecting that rental prices would continue to increase. And that it basically, like the guy said, basically printing money. We have no worries that the market's ever going to turn against us. So the problem is rents have been declining, which means that their total revenue has also been declining. Meanwhile, insurances, holding costs, and all these other things have gone up significantly in the last 1 or 2 years because of inflation. So let's say that you have a chart, your revenue is declining. Meanwhile, your expenses are going up at some point. And this is something that I started talking about 2 years ago. I was like, at some point, some of these large scale rental home owners they're going to see that chart doing that, and they're going to start to sell off inventory. And this is the first house that I have. Now, here's the thing. I'm not looking at all 4,000 homes that are for sale in the Tampa Bay area, and I'm not looking at all the, 4,000 or 5,000 homes in the Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati area. I'm not cross-referencing all this stuff. A lot of times I notice something interesting and then I dive into it. So more than likely there has been a number of these that have sold before this house. But this is the first one that I have seen, and it tells me that whoever the decision maker is, the numbers on this house made it to the point where it didn't make sense to hold on to it, which, and this is the whole thrust of the video, has increased the inventory of homes for sale in the area. And these things do tend to ramp. So as long as this trend continues, my expectation is we will see more and more and more of these. And overall, this is pretty good news because, again, the overall problem for the last few years is we have had fewer and fewer homes for sale. Stats-wise, the number of homes going up for sale has not gone up a crazy amount. It's not like the number of homes going up for sale have like tripled or gone up 4 times. So we're still kind of in that, it's a little higher than it was for the previous few years, but it's not like a big shift. The other crazy thing here is whenever you have these large scale rental home owners, and it's not even necessarily like, big billion-dollar companies. Like I know business owners that, they've owned a business for, 15, 20 years, and what they did was every, if they had some profit that year, instead of like blowing it all on a vacation or a new car, they would buy a rental house. So I literally know pawn shop owners that own like 250 homes in the area. But the interesting thing here is whenever you have a large portfolio of rental homes, the more common way to do it, to sell it, is you sell it as that portfolio chunk. Whereas with this house has gone retail. Which again, very unusual. And so going retail is definitely the way to get the most money for the house. But most people, it is a lot of work to try to sell, 5 homes, let alone if you're trying to sell like 30 homes. So I guess what I'm getting at here is there's a little positive sign here. I'm definitely, I'm not going to cross-reference all this because it's not like there hasn't been a big shift on the market statistics side. If I start to see like a few hundred more homes going for sale, then at that point, that's when I dive in. I'm like, okay, where are all these homes coming from? Are they private owners? Are they, these people liquidating? Airbnb is kind of probably going to be another one that starts selling soon because I know St. Petersburg, and specifically, they are bringing the hammer down on Airbnbs. I saw a thing where they're doing I think they called them super fines or something like that. So yeah, so all of this kind of pressure is starting to come onto the market here. And again, all this stuff takes a very long time to play out. In this case, it's been like 2 years since I mentioned what I think would probably happen as rents decline, and this is literally the first one I've seen. So yeah. But anyway, wanted to share that little bit of news with you today, because again, it is a key change. I haven't seen any large-scale investors sell a home retail like this. So pretty interesting. As far as the home goes, it's pretty cool. It's up in west of Chapel, Land O'Lakes, kind of the older stretch of 54, up close to Stagecoach and all that stuff. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you found this information useful or interesting. If you have some thoughts or questions, feel free to leave me a comment in the comments down below. The other things that I'd probably ask you to do here on the channel, ding ding and all that. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Kyle Sasser, and if you want to have a chat, if you need some help with your own home search, would be happy to help you out with that as well. Link to schedule a call is in the description down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Kyle Sasser, and I'll talk to you soon.